Hello, ball watchers. We are here, Jake and Justin, to recap the match 2-2 draw with LA Galaxy that happened on Sunday night in the middle of primetime football as well. You got to wonder how those ratings panned out. I know the stadium looked pretty empty from my perspective. I don't know how you felt about that, Justin.
Oh yeah, I thought the showing was poor, which I'm not surprised. We talked about this. I feel like LA doesn't show out that well, especially LA Galaxy where they're on the table. But I don't know what MLS is trying to do. They purposely chose Wednesdays and Saturdays to not deal with the NFL, and then they decided to go to the first Sunday night football game, which is a rivalry game with the Cowboys and Giants. I was confused.
So obviously a loaded type of game last night. And one that I think we'll want to put behind us relatively quickly as we continue our road journey here. But before we go much further, Jess, I know it is routine for us in the pod to do a one-word summary, and it's hard because there was just so many different feelings and thoughts emanating from last night. But if you try, what would be your one-word summary?
There are hundreds of words that I'm ready to use. Some not appropriate, so I will not be using them on this. But I would say I'm just going to go with disheartening. I mean, it's one of those where we absolutely dropped points again against this team. And we'll talk about the highlights and all of the lowlights. I don't feel good about how our team looked in this game.
Yeah. And, I agree. And to be totally frank, I actually didn't even pick this word. It was someone on Twitter I need to find responded with this word when we were talking about last night and just all the back and forth. There's tons, obviously, following this match. But the word is prescient. Prescient, spelled like prescient, I would say, is having or showing knowledge of events before they take place. And I feel like, Justin, at this point in the season, so I think that's in relation to two things I tweeted out before at halftime and then after the red card. I had a feeling that we were going to take the foot off the pedal after going up 2-0. Look what we did. And then I had a feeling that red card, that demise for us that red card, that mistake for us was going to ultimately be our demise. And we weren't going to be able to finish this game off. So unfortunately, I felt like a fortune teller last night in a very, very negative way. But you know what? We're also justified. I mean, the writing's on the wall for a lot of these games. We see people's strengths. We see where they tend to score goals and where they tend to concede. And we look at our weaknesses. And I'm not seeing much improvement. So that's the disheartening thing for me to go to your word. But that is my one word summary in a lot of words to summarize.
I will say you did have two great tweets. I put those on the Instagram story because I loved it. Because you said, I cannot stress this enough that we do not stop at 2-0. We need a third to really put a chokehold on this game, which we did not get. And then your next one was, cannot think of a worse combination of events for Sporting. Strapped in for a long 30 minutes. And that's why I put the GIF up there, hold on to your butts, because that was my heart rate was through the roof during that game. And I want to give a quick shout out to someone as well. Shelby DM'd us on Instagram, and she said the amount of times I've thought in the last 100 minutes, man, I can't wait to hear what the ball watching boys think about this. And because yes, there are a lot of thoughts for us. Her one word summary was roller coaster, which it was a very quick roller coaster because it was a nice climb up. And then we just absolutely dropped. And that's one of those things that you like make on Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you just send everybody off the edge just because it was funny. And now that was actually the game.
Yeah. And I got to shout out mine. I found it on Twitter. JB Goodboy. Or no, JB Goodbody. Thank you for the inspiration here.
I saw a good body at the U.S. men's national team game. Shout out to him.
That's probably JB then.
I mean, what other good body?
There's not many of them out there. I'm just, I had to assume.
Shout out to him. We were like walking around. He goes, Justin. I just like looked around. I'm like, I don't recognize anybody. He goes, it's JB Goodbody.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you all for the input. So you're making our jobs a lot easier with these one-word summaries. But let's jump to the hard part of breaking down this game here. Highlights are just a disclaimer for anyone listening, are going to be very localized to the first half because there was not much to talk about following that half. But, when you come into a game like this away, on the road against an LA Galaxy team who's been pretty much on fire since especially the League's Cup and just over the last probably span of 5 to 10 games and definitely trying to push their way back into the playoff picture. What a way to get started by scoring in the first 5 minutes. In the fourth minute, City gets on the board. Leuven gets a ball out to Strauss, streaking across. Strauss making a great run from wide right, kind of into the middle, and the defenders just are not tracking him. He finds the ball, plays a great ball into Adeniran with a nice touch. I feel like it's a little bit caught under him, but he takes it under pressure, gets it out from underneath him and just buries it. It was a great chance. He was in on goal alone, but a very calm finish. So great work by Adeniran and just a whole team to kind of build up and get that goal, because it wasn't through a fast break or through an error or a press. Really, it was just we find the attacking gap, and Stroud found that run a couple of times. That was on most of the first half.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been something that we talked about in the locker room, like we, as in City, making those crossing runs. Stroud did very well with that. They did not track him. It was a great run by him. Great touch, great ball, great finish. Sam Adeniran is, again, working his way into this lineup and having it a hard conversation to have with coach. Is like, this man's scoring goals, and this is what we need on this team. I will say another kind of another plus side on that as well. We have it as our second highlight. Klaus working hard off the ball to make for a passing option in the 6th minute. I thought he did that a ton last night, which is not something we saw earlier in April. It looks like he was trying to be the goal scorer, maybe a little complaining if he was not happy he wasn't getting the ball. He was streaking all over the field and into the second goal, which we'll talk about later. I'll say another thing that I liked was Akil Watts getting forward. I know just in general, we liked having Koenig and Watts. They're whipping balls in, making them dangerous. Just missed a cutting at Duran in the 9th minute. And then overall in those first 10 minutes, you have it in here as well. Very heavy pressure up top. We were looking good service, high press, trying to cause them to make mistakes in their back line. It was a great way to come out after losing last game, and then also now on the road and what is typically not an easy environment. I mean, I think LA traffic, whatever you want to call it, there was not many people there, but it was good to punch him in the mouth early.
Yeah, it was. And punching in the mouth is, I feel like, a specialty for 2 bulldozers that we started up top last night in Adeniran and Klaus, which was not a pairing I was honestly expecting to see, at least in the starting 11 right now. But the combination, I think, was interesting. Adeniran and Klaus, I feel like, kind of rotated in and out. Adeniran, I feel like, kind of found himself mostly out wide, a little bit supporting, and then Klaus kind of looking, in the half space and trying to play off the shoulders of defenders, as well as come in and receive the ball and distribute. Adeniran, you just saw time and time again with him. He's not an individual player, but he's got an individual type skill set that can work really well to make something out of nothing. And he kicks the ball around guys. He bodies them. He's faster than, I would say, most players in this league. And it's amazing what he can do on his own. And so I still want to see, more collaboration and more build up, in link up with his teammates. But I begin to appreciate him more and more, because I just don't think we have many players that are exactly like him, or really, if any. But the Klaus combination as well, it's great to have him coming back, holding the ball up under pressure, drawing fouls, just making a very physical presence that is very hard to defend against for LA's back line and midfield. The Adeniran has similar size, but I don't think he plays the same. So they might be similar in stature, but I appreciate very different things about both of them.
No, and I thought they played well together. I agree. That's not usually we see Klaus being our big man with putting Nico underneath or AZ or something along those lines. But playing both of them and then having the three smaller guys kind of working underneath of them with Stroud and AZ in them, I like the way it worked last night. And I'd say we do have 2 quick defensive highlights as well before we get into the goal. But Parker stepped up and blocked a shot from Costa. They averaged the 3rd longest from distance for shots there. And then also 25th. It's a highlight that we have here, but it was created by a low light. Berkey was safe hands off a point blank header on a ball whipped in by them that really could have turned the game around. But then just 3 minutes later is when we got our goal in the 28th. The ref was playing advantage for LA Galaxy. AZ takes the clearance, fights off which was a purposeful foul for sure, trying to end the counterattack. And one thing that I look for our team to do, fights that off, carries it 40 yards, sprays a ball into Klaus with a one-time finish through the goalkeeper's legs, which, Jake, we haven't talked about this yet. Do you think he was aiming for it?
I do think so. I think he was trying to keep the ball low and probably right under the goalie, if I'm being totally frank. I mean, because that just feels like the best gap to hit most of the time when you're in such close proximity, because the goalies cut off a lot of your shooting range or where you can go with that ball. So the best place is just right underneath them, honestly, in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, I don't think he meant to meg him, but I agree. If you put it just a footer to the right or left of the goalie's feet, he can't get down there that quick with his arms. But either way, it was a great finish. I'm glad he didn't try to put his laces through it and got excited. It was very calm, just a nice slotted ball. It was a long run from Klaus too. If you watch the replay, the man gets excited. You can see he's kind of jogging. AZ gets through that foul and just starts sprinting. And he's got some wheels on him, dude.
He does. He caught up well. I mean, at least I guess a lesson to learn here for anyone watching is that, Klaus obviously wants to score that goal and he wants to get in position to do so. But the mere fact that he's making that run makes the defenders commit to either track him or to track a Dinaran, who's also he was more advanced up the field at the time. But, they have to make decisions, and just to give an option to AZ on both sides, someone's going to end up with a great opportunity. It's a matter of AZ finding that right ball in the end. So even if he hadn't gotten the ball, I think great run and great dedication from Klaus. And that wasn't the end. I think we had some more chances after that. We had a great, one-time ball in from Klaus to a streaking Aziel Jackson, who had some opportunities he found in the game. Berkey was starting the attacks as well later on in the half. He had a great diagonal. He just pinged out to Markinek. And then in the 37th minute, AZ played a ball in behind for a Dinaran. He took a great touch wide, kind of rounded the goalkeeper and finished from a really tough angle. Could have squared for Klaus, who was also making the run there. But that was called back for offsides. And he was offsides, but you wonder, like, can he hold his run a little bit longer, just like a fraction of a second, and keep that in? Because it was on. The balls in behind were working for us last night. And that is not, I feel like, a bread and butter trait of ours. A lot of ours are in transition. The second goal was definitely a fast break, transition goal. But the first, we were finding gaps in the Galaxy.
Yes, I completely agree. And one last highlight that I have is 39th minute. We had a solid save from Roman on Joveljic. And I will say something that Roman did extremely well in this game, and we needed to, was he held all the balls, either kept them close and then was able to hop on it, or knocked it out completely. He did not give up any spills or parries in the middle, which was huge. So generally in the first half, I would say we had great communication on getting out to guys quickly, because we talked about this. We basically played like a 4-2-2-2, so not very wide. But I felt like Markinek and Akil Watts, specifically in the first half, stepped up very quickly to the guys that were out wide. I do feel like Pooch was kind of floating around a little bit, but LA Galaxy wasn't able to find him, which was great in that first half. I love us not letting up a goal before half, because they did have some solid chances. And we were 10-0 going into halftime when we were leading until the second half started.
Frustrating. So I guess getting into the second half, there's not much here, but just to kind of speed run through this is, I'd say like right off the half, we were still relatively okay. We had Dinaran putting in some pressure after a bad ball back, forced them to make a mistake and pass it out for a throw. We had Roman making some solid saves, and then I feel like right around probably, I don't know, like 5-10 minutes into the second half is when you really felt things sort of change. And I would even say that was before the red card. I don't think it was the red card and then everything changed. I think the red card just solidified it and made it stay that way. Because I think the rest of our highlights in here are really oriented around, defensively, people tracking back, or Nico getting on the pitch and doing the finger guns with Klaus, which is awesome to see him back out there, and Roman, just making great saves. So, I mean, that was just the story of it. It was a tale of two halves, and we've said that multiple games this season. I feel like we're preaching to the choir at this point, but when it doesn't change, and it's something that we typically kind of make the mistake of getting into, you wonder what's being done to change those behaviors. So we're going to get into the lowlights here and some of the stats, but the stats tell the story. I mean, last night, LA had 2 expected goals to our 0.72. We finished both our big chances. We were, pretty ruthless in front of goal last night. But I mean, LA, that second half, I mean, they had 20 shots in the game, 3 big chances. They finished 2 of those. They had 500 passes to our 172. I mean, they just dictated the entire game. And when you lose a man, that gets even worse and even more exacerbated. So it was a tough match for the guys. You got to imagine they are exhausted coming home to St. Louis after that one, and probably a little mentally fatigued as well, just from all the drama and emotion that went to that game. So we can hop into that now.
Yeah, I will say, and I'm happy that we snuck out of here with a point. We'll talk about it more generally at the end, but low lights, 15 minutes in. I've had a couple of problems. We have a couple of these actually where Parker, he plays the ball to Watts with the guy on his back to goal as opposed to just going back to Berkey. I had a couple of some other ones in here where Parker has had the ball at his feet and has just not been playing crisp passes, and it leads to counters for them. And so need to be a little bit smarter there. I mean, Roman with his feet is probably just as good as almost anyone on the field. So I trust him, give the ball back to him. He'll get it out long if we need to. Then I'll say literally just a minute later, there's a short corner played back to the actual corner taker. And our line didn't step up quick enough to prevent that. And then obviously once you do that, this team is very dangerous in set pieces. You tweeted that out as we give up the set piece with some of the fouls that we have there that are leading to goal chances. And what was their XG for only run of play for them was only 0.55. So yes, they got 1 point, or they got 0.77 or so with the PK, but then everything else, the other 0.55 came in with them doing set pieces. And that's something that we did not clean up whatsoever.
Yeah, in Carnell last night in the post game press conference talked about the little things, and it's a game of the little things. All of those little things add up to a big thing, and I don't feel like we were necessarily great, like you said, in set piece defending last night. It's just small things like that. When the ball is played from a corner kick short to a teammate, there is no chance without that corner kick taker originally sprinting to get up, closer to the guy that he passed it to, that your back line should not keep up with that pass. The moment that's played short, everyone should be marching up the field, 5 yards, whatever you can give to limit that cross coming back in via the corner kick taker. So that's just super small thing. There's another small thing. Nielsen got a super early yellow as well. It's debatable for me on if that was really truly a yellow card. There was a couple of those last night that we saw tossed around, but it's tough to get early yellows because really that's something in your pocket that you can hold on to for moments in the game where things can change, and you can use that to your advantage. And he didn't have that luxury towards the end of the game. We talked about Tim Parker a little bit. I think he was caught sleeping a little bit on his man in the 25th minute. A guy kind of drifted off his shoulder, created space from him when the cross comes in. He got a great header on goal, and thank God Berkey's right in the right spot to make that saves. I do feel like that was kind of our back line a little bit last night for me more generally was, and this happens, in other games as well, but the way we play, I think, is defend forward. And when you can't defend forward, your midfield and forwards are kind of committed up top to trying to get that press and earn it back. And then your back line is trying to breathe down the necks of the wingers and attackers to make sure that when the ball is sprayed out to them, they can't go anywhere. They can't turn. They can't, play together. And sometimes when that doesn't work, or when we can't get a toe on the ball or really physically kind of impose ourselves, I do feel like we get spun and we quickly are running in emergency mode back towards our goal with numbers for the opposition. So that could just be a byproduct of how we play. But man, it's scary as hell when you've got a guy like Ricky Pooch, on the ball with 3 or 4 attackers to each of his sides, and you've got, less defenders, right? And Tim Parker's on his horse getting back. And so it's tough, but maybe it is just really a byproduct of that press.
I don't think it's a byproduct of the press because we've done it earlier in the year. I think it's, in my opinion, Jake, it's not having a consistent starting lineup, especially across the back line and then Leuven and Blum in the front. I mean, that's probably the first time those 6 have played together. And if you're not having good communication, you're going to have open spots like that. And a more specific one was in the 33rd minute. Miscommunication with Nielsen and Berkey. I feel like Nielsen could have easily got there, but Berkey could have easily picked it up. They didn't talk, and they pretty much almost run into each other.
Yeah.
And Nielsen just has to hit it out for a throw as opposed to Rome just picking it up. The last low light that I have, at least in the first half, is that I don't think that we were good at clearing the ball whatsoever. And a specific one right there was a near post corner, straight to Blum's foot. I don't know if he just wasn't ready for it, tries to clear it, but ends up actually like flicking it almost into the 6-yard box, which even the announcer said there was 10 to 12 guys just in the 6 and just put it right in the mixer. Luckily, we cleared that out. And then obviously we talked about this already, but the gaps in our press, if we don't all go as one team together, it's very easy to expose us. And that was the last thing that I had in the first half.
And that's what gets you in situations like I'm talking about. I do feel like we pressed during the right moments last night, like a ball that was fizzed into someone who makes a kind of a heavy first touch, or they're kind of isolated in their own corner. And I think those trigger points, those are right. I think everyone's identifying those. But the press for me last night, like you said, there were some gaps where I do feel like we made it too easy to play out of it. There was a pivot guy just sitting right in the middle of the field sometimes where if they found him, we were unlocked. And they found him too much. And that often that guy was Ricky Pooch, who is so dangerous when he's carrying the ball like that. So I all that to say, I do feel like we had the right moments in terms of knowing when to press, but it was a matter, like you said, of everyone committing to it or everyone knowing exactly where they should be positionally to avoid that quick break, which was happening too much last night. And so honestly, in the 50th minute, LA gets their first goal. So like you said, Justin, poor clearance. And we're talking about poor clearances. There were some good clearances last night too, but you've got to have clearances down pat. I mean, when you have a chance, that ball has got to go. And it's got to go either to someone who's trying to hold the ball up like a forward, or it's just got to go down the field, deep down the field. I'm out of your third of defensive. So We had a poor clearance on the corner, led to a shot that was just ripped inside the box. I think it might have taken a very, very subtle deflection, but Adeniran kind of has a hand out, elbow on his body, but hands kind of out, hits it. LA is fuming. It was not called on the field by the referee, and he goes to VAR eventually after they stopped the play because, I mean, I think it was Leuven. Someone just got bulldozed by a Galaxy player, which that yellow does stand, but that does cause them to go back to VAR now in a break of play. And not only do they go back and say this ref is clear and obvious, he's calling himself out. His call on the field was wrong, that he judges it is a PK for LA, and Adeniran gets a yellow for it, for denial of a goal scoring opportunity, which I just think is a punch to the nuts. I mean, how is that a yellow card? I get that might be in the rules for a denial of goal scoring opportunity, but that is not a yellow card. And I think that is so harsh, and obviously it ends up really hurting us, as we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, and the PK, Push puts it away. Rome actually got a hand on it going to his right side. So the yellow stands. My question is, Jake, and I wanted to look this up, and I didn't get a chance to ahead of time. So anybody listening, let us know. When we were countering on after that handball and we were going and they get a yellow card, obviously then once they score the PK, then you go back to the center of the field and basically like those plays didn't happen. What if we would have scored? What if we would have went down and scored and then they go back to VAR, called a handball? Do they call our goal back?
I really don't know. I don't think you can. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I feel like it's the type of call where once that continuous passage of play ends, so the ball never went out, no foul was given, and then that's when Leuven or someone got slid into, and then they caused them to go back. If he got slid into and somehow we were able to squeeze out a quick pass and the referee didn't call it on the field, that's no longer reviewable, I don't think. So if we score a goal there, I think it's similarly treated in that they can't say, okay, City gets a goal, but also we're going to go back and take that PK that happened in the past. Yeah. So it doesn't, I don't think that would work. That's my hot take. I don't know that for sure. I would love for someone to confirm that for us.
And I would say the whole handball thing, a lot of back and forth. I saw multiple things on Twitter. I think in the past 5 games, there's been a couple checked on VAR. There's just no consistency on either side. And even Taylor Spellman did a side-by-side video of Adeniran's handball and then showing it to AZ. I think it was against Sporting KC when he tries to chip it through and the guy's arm kind of blocks it through. Yeah. So a lot of controversy there. But what really hurt us the most, Jake, was literally 10 minutes later when Adeniran got a second yellow for sliding into Push, who just barely got a touch before that. But we had a couple of those. We're like, what are you doing trying to make that tackle in the midfield? Use your big body and just trying to use like your shoulders. Yeah. You don't need to be going to the ground. That guy's too quick. You go to the ground, you're getting that yellow every time. And then he sent off with a red there.
Yeah, it's too much. I mean, really quickly back to the handball. In my personal opinion, I think that should be a handball in the rule book personally. But yes, like you said, it needs to be called consistently. And that's the frustration. I feel like we've been on the wrong end of subjective referees a lot recently. So all that, I do think that is a PK, but we need consistent coverage from referees. And then back to Adeniran. So he gets the yellow on the PK, then he gets another yellow on a stupid foul on Pooch. He's got to know better. I'm sorry. I know the first yellow was hard on him. He's got to know better. That type of discipline is what kills you when not everyone is on the same page here. Why are we forcing a slide there? He wasn't even in a dangerous spot yet. Pooch wasn't. So that happened. The Markovic one happened, and both of them came back to haunt us. It's discipline. It is. I know these guys are young. I know we haven't been in a team for years now, but those are small things that when you add them up, make a hell of a lot of difference. And it's inexcusable to me. I don't care. These guys are young. You know the rules. You know you're on a yellow. You know where someone is in the field. In Markovic's case, we'll get to. You know that LA is dangerous from free kicks. Do not foul them close to your area. Do not foul them.
I'll quickly take us through these lowlights to get us to their second goal. But basically, from the 62nd to the 77th, the lowlights are good save by Roman, just because they had a great shot. And thank God Roman held on to it because Jovelis was right there to clean it up because no one tracked him back. 64th, Push rips one dude just wide of the goal. Just wide of the goal. It looked like Roman may have cover, but it was 30 yards out. You can't leave him open there. 71st, more poor clearances on corner kicks. And then we have to get Nilsson, who gets down to the ground and make a sliding block. 73rd again, we're looking sluggish. We're not getting wide out to the guys. I think Markovic looked tired that second half. First half, everybody was getting out to their guys in time. Second half, we were getting 10 yards away from him and then throwing our foot up to try to block a cross. It's already in swinging, not going to work. 75th was another poor pass from Parker that led to a counterattack and a side volley by them, which was, thank God, blocked out by Nilsson for a corner. And then Nilsson goes down in the 77th with a groin/hamstring injury. It didn't look to be too serious. Thank God we have a whole nother week. Hopefully he'll be fine. Yeah. And that's when the subs came on. So Yarrow came on for him. Leuven came off and was absolutely pissed. You see him, he double took and was like looking at the rest board. He throws his hands up like, what? Yeah. For Hebert, which I completely agree. Yes, Hebert's more of a defensive-minded guy, but bringing in a center back in the 77th minute to a game that's already kind of dicey, and we're up 2-1, I hated that move back for us. Thor was on for AZ. In my opinion, I would have put Celio on, just let him just say, hey, don't stop running for the next 20 minutes, whatever plus stoppage time that we are going to play.
Right.
I would have rather seen Celio there instead of Thor.
I think when who was it that came on? And I think Yarrow, I read his lips. He came on and he said 5-4-1, which is just lock it up, basically. Yeah, and
park the bus.
I get it at that moment. I do think the personnel was wrong. I don't think Leuven should have come off, and maybe he was tired to them, or maybe they saw something that we weren't seeing. But obviously he's really great defensively, and he's also a leader out there. And I think we lost something when we subbed him out, and obviously he was frustrated. So I think he had some more minutes in the tank, but he's also a guy that I feel like is never going to want to come out. Hebert, I thought was fine. I thought Yarrow actually pretty well coming in and joining the back line. But you didn't see much from Gioacchini. You didn't see much really from Thorson at all. And from those guys, Carnell's probably asking, like you said, go out there, do not stop running, give us an outlet and take the ball to the corner and just relieve pressure. Like take that bottle and just twist it a little bit and let some of the pressure out, because we were getting shelled. And it didn't help, because in the 82nd minute, they scored their equalizer. Markinek, like I already mentioned before, took a really silly yellow card, sliding when he did not need to. It just no need at all. And LA, like I said, is super good at set pieces. They generate a lot of opportunities and goal threat from there. And the ball was floated to the back post. Nico, in my opinion, gets up for it. But I used to have this thing in high school. One of the coaches used to call it fake headers. When you're not going to win it, but you just flail your body up like you're close to it. He did that exact thing. He was nowhere near that ball, and he's not marking his guy tight enough who's in the back post. And it goes over his head. It's headed across to Billy Sharp, the 37-year-old Englishman from Sheffield United, and he gets his foot point blank on this right in front of Berkey's. That gets the goal. Hot take here. Was not reviewed, I don't believe. Actually, I think it was reviewed. There was an angle I saw on Twitter earlier this morning where it looked like his foot might have been in an offside position, but that was not talked about at all.
Parker kept raising his hand and looking at the sideline ref. I thought it was just Parker was marking him tight. It was a great ball, great finish right there, but I don't think he was off, Jake. I looked at it as well. His fit, after he hits it, his foot looks off, but I think it was more behind him, and he near. Either way, one thing I will say, a couple more lowlights, and we can move on to play ratings, everything. Yellow card, the 85th to Hebert. Apparently didn't learn from whatever just happened with Markinek 3 minutes earlier and giving them another wide free kick right there, where Roman then has to climb the ladder and pull this ball down, which is Roman saving us again. 89th minute, Pooch dribbles 35 yards, whips one into an open header. Roman has to make another, or the open header just misses, and Roman stands up and absolutely chews out the back line. Like, if we're in a 5-4-1, how are we getting open shots and open whipped in balls to guys wide open in the middle? And one thing, Jake, I knew this was going to come. I was telling my parents this. I was watching it with them, 9 minutes of stoppage. And I was like, dang. And you saw Carnell was pissed because we had 0 in the first half. But in the second half alone, there were 5 yellow cards, 2 goals, 1 VAR, and multiple injury stoppages. So I'm not surprised, especially with the MLS and the way soccer is moving, to give more time there. But 9 minutes, I was like, oh, God, we're going to lose this game.
I legitimately had resigned to losing the game at that point. And we didn't write any highlights for this, but I will say to concede the equalizer in the 85th and then to go 15 minutes and not concede after everything that's against us, I do have to give a little bit of kudos to the team. Whatever way it was ugly, we got out of there with a draw. And it doesn't matter in the end. It's a point on the road. That's great. And I'm going to talk a little macro and micro in a second as we get to the very end here. But before I do, Justin, let's jump to player ratings and round out here. But before we do, really quick, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and head down and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button so you are subscribed to Ball Watching. Whenever we're going live with a show or streaming one live, and you can drop your comments and let us know what you're thinking about, your thoughts in the game, as well as on podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. definitely hit us up there. Make sure you follow the show, subscribe to the show, leave us ratings and reviews. I don't leave a rating on Apple, or at least, sorry, a comment since like June. So I'd be curious to hear what people are liking about the show, what you want to see different or have us include. Definitely let us know there as well. And also shout out to our sponsors. Justin, I know you usually do this. I'll take a swing. Obviously, we got Soul Juice working on formalizing this deal with them and getting this official very, very soon. So you guys will have a lot to benefit from there. But for right now, you can get 20% off orders on souljuice.com by using our code ballwatching at checkout, or you can head to your local Deerbergs as well and pick them up there. It's like right in the deli. Sorry, in the deli section. You can get them at like the refrigerated section there and the pitch. It's a great place to be. I know it was booming for the men's national team game, and it's always my favorite thing to go down to and have some fun before these city games. But it's not just that. Like, you can go there. They're open for lunch, obviously, every day. They have great food. From the food that I've had there, it's been phenomenal. And then it also, for any of your sports, I can't imagine. I didn't do it this Sunday, but I would love to park my butt down for NFL Sunday or even college football on one of those couches and have the full, iPad remote just to go to wherever I want to watch. It's incredible.
Yeah, especially with people having problems with like Spectrum and all this and not having deals with the NFL or Mizzou, which, after Saturday's game, you don't really need to watch Mizzou anymore. We almost lost to Middle Tennessee State at home. I didn't even know that was a school. But regardless, the pitch is the place to watch all of that stuff. Let's get in. Good job, Jake. Good job there.
Thank you.
Let's get into the player rankings. We can start with Rome in the back. There was nothing that he could have really done on either of those goals. Footmama has him as a 7-1. I'm going to give him an A-, dude. I thought that he played a pretty strong game. There was nothing bad with his feet, a lot of great saves. I think we take for granted the amount of parries that ones that he's able to hold on to and don't let up a second chance. So I'm going to give him an A-.
I'll support you there. I feel bad for him. He makes the difficult look easy, and he didn't have any acrobatic saves last night, but he kept a lot of things within his range, and I appreciate that from him. His distribution was good. His leadership was good. But, man, he gets left out to dry so often from this team, and that is not controversial at all. Some people were really snarky with me in the tweets last night on that. No, it's this expansion team. It's all young guys. Parker and Nilsson are basically both 30. So, I know the fullbacks are younger for sure, but would you appreciate that? Constantly having to stay on your head. He has the most saves, I believe, in the MLS.
He does. He's the only goalie with over 100 saves in MLS. He had another 6 last night out of 8 total shots on goal. One was a PK and one was a point blanker.
Yeah, he's earning his paycheck every single game, and I don't think we need to necessarily have him do that every single game. I would like to move from that reliance on him. Backline, two things. I love our fullbacks in terms of having an ability to have ball-playing fullbacks that can get up the field, who are super comfortable on the ball. Akil Watts and Markinick are both like that. A little bit less enthused about their 1v1 defending and their ability to track back and really, make for a good defender as well. I think they both have it in them. I haven't seen it as much these last couple of games, but I think they could be improved performances. So I will go with a C+, maybe B- for them last night. In the back, middle 2. Nilsson obviously goes out hurt. I hope he's okay. Parker and Nilsson, I think, were exposed a little bit too much last night. Balls in behind. First half was pretty solid. Second half, I do feel like we were figured out. So I'm going to go probably C+, B- for them as well.
I would agree. I hated the Nilsson yellow card early on. I do think we had a couple lowlights from Parker from passes or not marking, but I thought overall he played a very strong game, which is what we needed out of him, and actually just bullying some of these guys. So I appreciated it. Leuven and Blum, to be honest, dude, I was not impressed with Blum last night. I don't think we had a highlight on him, like stopping counters. I think he looked poor in his clearances. I'm not looking for him to do a lot of offensively, but I'm going to give Blum a flat B. I'll give Leuven a B as well, because I don't think he really owned that game like we consistently have out of him. And then if you look on the wingers, AZ and Stroud, I thought AZ was actually pretty dangerous in this game. Stroud did well to make that run and also did well getting back on defense. I think Stroud was hustling a lot. He was actually surprised that he was coming out as well whenever we put in Indy in the 90th. I think that was more of a time-wasting thing. And I thought even right before he came out, he dribbled it, got a nice foul, added another 2 minutes to the clock for us. So I thought Stroud did all right. I'll say Stroud and AZ. I'll give him a B. I'll just give them all B, honestly.
I think AZ probably B+, A- range for me. I think we were a different team without him. Honestly, last night, if he wasn't playing, I thought Blum actually did okay. I think there's a lot of just the quiet, dirty work behind the scenes, just trying to impose himself. I think, honestly, a lot of these guys First half is totally different from the second half, and they get hard done by the second half performances. Leuven, I don't think it was his best night. Just couldn't put in a full shift. I think he was a little bit tired, couldn't find the right spots to be dangerous in. And I think Stroud came in, did the job, especially in the first half, super dangerous. I don't know many moments in the second where I feel like I was calling out his name. But our forwards, Klaus and Adeniran, I think Adeniran, like I said, great showing of skill and talent. And Klaus, both your guys, what do you ask them to do? Go out there and score goals. They both got the goal. But, Adeniran, that momentary, mental lapse, that kills you. That absolutely kills you. That takes him down from like an A, honestly, for me to a C plus. I mean, because you got to be kicking yourself. I mean, your teammates, you got to hold them accountable for that. And I'm sure they will. And it's just a lapse. It's nothing more than that, but it's still not okay to do in a game of that magnitude when you're up. And then Klaus, great to see him get the goal. I do think he still needs more time to get back to full match fitness. Found his body language lacking a little bit last night. And towards the end, I just feel like every flick or trick he tried to pull just wasn't working for us. So I want to see him continue to make progress back towards his state that he was in earlier in the season. But hey, hadn't scored since March 25th. Welcome back to the Goals Club, buddy. Good to have you.
Yeah, I think he had a strong first showing back as a starter there, so I appreciate it. I mean, we already talked about the bench guys. I don't think anyone did anything special. We don't need to grade them each. But predictions and Grahammer reviews real quick. Jake, you predicted a 2-2 draw. Nice. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. You had bets on the first half draw. That did not hit, but your parlay of both teams to score in the second half over 1.5 hit, unfortunately, because LA Galaxy scored both of their goals in the second half. Yeah. So that was -110. Good for you there. Double chance. I was absolutely sweating that out at -110. Thank God that smacked, because in our over 1.5 smacked in the first half. Every time I'm taking that, us to score 2 goals. But Jesus, I thought for sure I was going down in the double chance.
Yeah. So Justin, 2-2 draw. That was not how, I mean, even going up to, I'm like, oh, cool, I'll be wrong, but I'm totally fine being wrong. Yeah. And I did not imagine that happening. And by the way, and this gets into what we're going to get into with the macro, micro, how I want to look at this game and where we go from here. But Justin, talk us through magic number first, because it might be some shocking news for those who aren't as close to it.
Yep. I will present real quick, Jake. So one thing that we talked about and everybody needs to keep in mind is the fact that if other teams are not doing anything around us, our magic number is still staying well. So the fact that we snuck out of there with a point was still big for the magic number. So for people that can't visually see this, we have 48 points right now. We have 6 games remaining. For us to get home field advantage, so the number 4 spot in the MLS, we just need 3 more points. If everybody consistently plays how they have, we did technically clinch the 7th overall spot if we need, so which would be home or not having home field advantage in the round 1. And then now it says -3 points for the wild card, meaning that we already have that clinched. I mean, we have 48 points. Wild card is absolutely locked up for us. So we're making the playoffs, but we need that round 1. And I would say more importantly, we need that round 1 at home. So looking at our games upcoming, we're away at Houston on 9/16. They're 5th in the West. LAFC is at home on 9/20. They're 3rd in the West. And then 9/23 is at Minnesota United, and they're 7th in the West. So all 3 of those teams are in playoff positions and looking to also increase their odds there. So specifically for Houston as 5th, if they get in the top 4, they get home field advantage. LAFC wants to hold that home field advantage to 3rd. And then Minnesota United is kind of on the line of maybe making wild card as opposed to round 1. So not easy for us coming up.
Definitely not. And I think that paints a good picture, because this helps me talk about, last night I see, your classic emergence on Twitter, or just when I'm doing social media, I'm looking at everyone's perspectives after the game. You have 2 types of people I think evolve. There's your doomsdayers. This team is crap. We don't deserve to be here. I cannot believe we blew that. It's ridiculous. We're the worst team. And then you have the people that are just drinking or just hammered on the Kool-Aid. That, this is just incredible. What a season it's been. And both people can be right. I try to stay right in the middle of both. And so I want to break this down into 2 things. And I'll keep it quick here. From a micro perspective, we have work to do as a team. And the work just can't be, swept under the rug because we're new or we're young. We have work to do. There are mental things last night and lapses that contributed to our downfall. My summary after the game was we orchestrated our own downfall. We lost that game for ourselves personally. And yeah, we are hard done by a handball call, but the handball doesn't happen without a failed clearance. And they have a free kick goal, and that doesn't happen before we have a yellow card that leads to that, and we don't defend well enough. So there are plenty of things for this team to work on that we can all agree on. this is not the finished product. That's from a micro level. Carnell, the team, everyone needs to be accountable to that. Macro wise, take a step back. Point in the road, you'd have taken that. If I don't watch that game and I see 2-2 draw, I'm pumped. That's great. That's what we wanted. That was a goal, to get a point on the road. You've proven you can get a result out regardless of how ugly it was. That's great. And in the MLS as a whole this season, we're an expansion team, first season. It's been historic. What we've done is nothing short of incredible. But I don't think that's justification for us to just hang our boots on that either. I think we have a great opportunity here. We can legitimately take first in the Western Conference. And I'm revising our goal to be that now. I think we would be dropping the ball if we didn't do it now. And we have some tough games ahead. And I think we're going to learn a lot about this team in this final stretch here of these opponents we're playing, and especially on the road. Can we do it? Because we can't go into the playoffs, just resting on potentially 2 home games if needed, because away form has been abysmal, especially of recently. So that's my bigger picture. This is how it looks. Not overreacting to this one game. Obviously, it's been one game in the whole long season, but there are definitely things that we need to change. And there are definitely things that we should be more appreciative about, more generally, about this whole season, because this was not expected.
No, I completely agree. And the last thing I'll say here as well, Jake, is it doesn't get easier. We already talked the next 3 games. Then we play Vancouver, Kansas City, and Seattle. So of our next 5 games, 3 of them are projected to have 50 points exactly if they keep up their pace right now. So that's what we're talking about. This is not going to be an easy run here. And I will say, yeah, it's been a great season. Our predictions, both you and I, were hoping to push for a playoff spot. That has completely been out the window. Don't hang on being like, oh, what a great first season. If we don't get home field advantage, I think we absolutely fumble the bag. And I think we need to get out of the first round as well. So these guys need to have a little bit of a look inward. Let's see what kind of lineups we're coming out with against these strong opponents coming up. And now we have a full week at home before we go back to Houston. So let's rest up, make sure everybody's healthy, and let's get back on it.
Yeah, and we head out to Houston on Saturday evening, so it should be a great, probably pretty hot match down in Houston. Not that we're not used to that at this point, but one that I think, again, gives us another chance to go in there and earn our away merit, because we used to have it and we've kind of lost that vibe. So let's go back down to Houston and do it. Preview coming probably on Wednesday as well for that one. So we'll be back with you here pretty shortly, but we wanted to do this recap for you all and help process all of the drama and emotions that went to last night. I hope everyone's having an okay-ish Monday following a late night Sunday there. But until we talk to you on Wednesday, everyone have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday and All for City.